Hallo, welkom by Farmspace. Reg, ek is terug by Hurwitz Farming en soos julle weet is dit summersale tyd en anders as gewoonlik staan ons nie daar in die veld as nie mooi en van die heel bestes nie. Ons staan hierso tussen die voerkraalbeeste en by Simeon hoor waarom hulle besig is met hierdie beeste en met die voerkraal met die borane, hoe dit werk en is dit sin vir hom om by hulle te kom beeste koop vir die kommersiële mark en is dit regtig wat hulle sê dit is. Simeon, welkom terug by Farmspace.
Thanks, Dennis. Always good to have you.
Yeah, it's great being here. It's your third sale for the year.
Yeah.
You had an absolute belter of an auction previously. The market's coming to the end where it's the last guys looking for bulls. It's the last round for bulls buying, except for those who couldn't buy up till now because of all the restrictions. You've been doing the feedlot with the bulls here, with the Boran, with some mixed breeding as well, crossbreeding. Is it really worth it? Is it working at Hurwitz Farming?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% it's working at Hurwitz Farming. So yeah, to talk about the feedlot for a bit, which is a little bit of a change to what we normally do. At us we have a fully standalone feedlot capacity and environment where we stand up to 8,000 head of cattle. So it's an integrated business unit in itself, which stands completely alone and aside from the stud, which is the Boran stud and the Africa Droughtmaster stud. Yeah. So definitely it works. I mean the feedlot, doesn't necessarily rely on Boran animals or Boran crossbred animals. It buys in animals with agents throughout the country, even cross-border at times. And it has its own market share, and we also used to go into the deboning side and into the retail side of the beef product. So working with feedlot and working with the beef animal is something we're very used to. So where does the Boran fit into it with us? Well, we've said it many times. There was an experiment we did for a Boran cross Afrikaner farmer a few years ago, which actually surprised the lights out of us how well that breed actually and that cross did. And then we started to investigate this a bit more and started to take our own information and data and analyze it. Over the space of 10 years plus now, we have fed thousands and thousands of Boran types, purebred Boran, different phases of Boran, different appendixes, different crossbreeds. So we've got our own information, and yes, it's a very profitable animal to farm with and also to feed anywhere in the beef chain. And certainly in the feedlot it's doing its bit for us and works beautifully for us as a business, with the stud, with the crossbreeding, and then having a market to fatten off and finish off animals.
Yeah, because you have the crossbreeds in here, you can see some Hereford crossbreeds in here, and those sort of crosses worked really well with the Boran. For those who don't know, I'll try to get the picture up here, but how far genetically the Boran is away from most other breeds in the country or in the world for that matter, and then that sort of bigger inside feedlot is what you want, because your biggest nightmare inside a feedlot is animals getting sick and die, and that's where you lose. That 1 or 2 kilogram you might up and down and where they eat is nothing comparing to losing 10 animals a month in a feedlot.
Yeah, 100%. So the hybrid vigor that the Boran brings to any crossbreeding environment is already known, well proven. And when we talk about specifically the Hereford side of it, a few years ago both breed societies, Hereford, Boran and others, participated in a genomics project, and the results of that project spat out that those two breeds were actually furthest away from each other from a genetics point of view. So by crossbreeding them, logically you would assume to get the biggest hybrid vigor. So that's one of the principles we then applied. So we went and we got a few Hereford animals in and we started crossbreeding them, and the same with other types of breeds. So we've concentrated a bit in the build-up of our crossbreeding on European type of animals, crossing them on Boran females. So we have a herd of roughly 200 SB deregistered Boran animals. I mean, a herd of 200 is really a sizable amount of animals, and on that we've used different bulls, and we've reversed engineered it and done it the other way around, using the bull on different types of females. So if we look at what we're doing from a crossbreeding strategies, we've introduced Boran and Ngunis, we've introduced Boran Hereford, Boran Shorthorn, Gelb V's, Brown V's, Droughtmasters now most recently as well, because that's really finishing that F1 out beautifully. So that crossbreeding thing is definitely working. Putting the bulls into the feedlot, seeing those results, getting the data, and also having the female product afterwards to sell. So in this coming up auction now, we've got a couple of purebred Boran females that are carrying calves from Droughtmasters mainly, as well as a few shorthorns, maybe a Brown Bee that's got in there, Hereford that's got in there, as those bulls are starting to phase themselves out. But yes, that hybrid vigor is something we want, and we see it coming through later on in the expense side of it in the feedlot. So the morbidities, which is the term that's used in the feedlot, is definitely much lower with Boran. They don't get sick. They put on weight. Their weight gain is absolutely in line with everything else that we have and that we've fed on our farm. So our average daily weight gain is roughly between 1.6, 1.9 kilograms per head per day, depending on the time of the year, which is a reality in feedlotting. The dry matter feed conversion ratio is around 4.2 to 4.6, which is outstanding. So they eat less. They cut teeth at a much later stage, which means that kind of dispels the myth or the thinking or the rumor about them being early maturing in a feedlot environment. We haven't found that at all. And their carcass afterwards, they slaughter out magnificently on a 59 to 61% basis. There's a demand for the beef, there's a demand for the carcass. They're deceptively heavy, they look a lot lighter than actually what they are, and it's a beef animal, and it proves again that this is, again, Africa's solution to beef, and you plug it in anywhere in the beef chain, and it works.
Simeon, if I put myself in the guy coming to your auction shoes as a commercial farmer, and I want to buy a bull, and I want to keep some of those females back, that cross females back, how do you go about choosing which females come back? Or is that perspective wise? Because now you're going to have females that looks a little Boran and maybe a little bit more brownie, maybe a little more limousine. What is the thinking of keeping those back? How do you choose going back, and what should the guys do when they come and buy a bull here to work on their farm?
Well, it depends what you're trying to achieve in your own environment. So firstly, you must buy something that works for you and not something that looks good on Facebook or in a picture somewhere. So you must buy an adaptable product that works nicely in your environment. By the time you finish taking off the skin, it's all the same color. It's all the same. The carcass is roughly, the carcass build may slightly differ from breed to breed, but it's ultimately the same. So a guy must do what he wants to do and how he wants to do it. I mean, there is definitely a trend and an increased appetite for crossbreeding type of animals, for synthetic or composite type of breeds, and we look at that. I mean, the Brahman, as an example, has played a tremendous part in that role over many, many years across the world. And as an offshoot of that, we have breeds like Brangus and Charbray and Simbra, etc. So the Boran has the ability to do that, and in my opinion, maybe even better, and adds a little bit more to that table. But then from our point of view, how to select and how to choose and how to do, I mean, again, I'll answer the question by saying a guy must choose what he wants and what he needs. But what's also nice from us, from a client basis, is that we buy back the calves. We buy back the calves of the guys that buy bulls from us, and that relationship has worked beautifully for us. We've built up many friends over that relationship. We buy back the calves, we give him a premium price on what the market is at the time. The logistics works. He's happy to buy the bull from us. We're happy to buy the calves from him. Some of them even use us as custom feeders for them if we've got capacity. So we feed those calves to them because they want to see the results for themselves. And it's generated its own market share to buy bulls. It's generated its own market share to buy in weaners. The logistics is simple, cuts out the middleman from time to time, and it's a good relationship.
Simeon, the one thing about having an auction like you did last time is people might go back and say, I can't afford a Hurwitz bull, it's just too expensive. But yes, there is one or two bulls because there is that genetics, and some of those, that progeny that just are meant for stud. But then there are the bulls that go for reasonable prices that are going to work commercially, and that will work. It's not just the stud for the stud farmers, and that the guys should just realize that.
Yeah, absolutely. There must be a market for everything, and there must be a bull for all budgets, for sure. There used to be a rule of thumb, whether it's been applied today by the modern farm, I don't know, where it was roughly the price of 7 weaners today equals the price of 1 breeding bull in order to create those weaners. So if you do those type of maths, you start to get to an average price bull of considerable 50, 60 to 70, even more, 1,000 rand an animal. And we sell animals for a lot less than that as well on auctions, off the farm. And obviously, yes, those that want the genetics will pay a little bit more. There's a particular reason why an animal goes for what it does. But in general, the bull market around all breeds is doing nicely, and there's interest. I mean, we're seeing it in all the Boran sales at the moment. The average prices of bulls is definitely picking up because commercial farmers realize what that bull and 50% of the progeny of that he's responsible for is bringing to their general farming operation. that return on investment, that longevity that he brings to the table, that smooth coatedness, that hardiness, that adaptability, that herd instinct, that all comes from one generation of crossbreeding into that F1, and they're seeing it. But you just have to allow these animals to grow out nicely. You know, you don't have to look after them in any different manner, but you just got to allow them to be cattle like everything else. It's a wonder breed, it's not a super breed, but it certainly does its job for whatever you want. And then, you know, the ratio, people breed with 30 females to 1 bull, but it takes that bull to make those females. So yes, ultimately I think we need, the Boran is marketed nicely as the mother cow of Africa, and yes, you'd like a herd of as many your stocking density can take on your farm, but it takes a bull in order to create that. You know, a better product is actually your F2 in far as a crossbreeding point of view, in my opinion.
So that's bigger going.
Correct. And then and after that you can do what you want with whatever bull you want to market with. I mean, behind us, if we see the Boran Herefords and the Boran Charbres Charolais that are standing out behind us, you know, these are fantastic animals.
And there's some brush in here as well, and
absolutely
everything in between, and Droughtmaster.
Absolutely.
Just before we finish off, on the auction we normally talk about what there's genetic wise for the guys and big and small and this and that line, but for the commercial farmer, for him it's about what he's looking. Is he looking for a heifer to open his heifers with? And I'm guessing you guys, I haven't seen all the bulls, we're on our way there, but I'm guessing you've got all the different sizes and shapes and for the auction as well.
Absolutely. And then there's also, you know, in the catalogue you get the breeding values. So a guy must also look at the breeding values if he wants to have some sort of guidance and clarity about milk production or calving ease or growth or something like that. That's all there. Yes, and the bulls on offer, I mean, there's over 20 bulls on offer, so there's certainly going to be something for everybody in all budgets and all types.
So yeah, it's been a lot. I hope the guys can take it all in, but I think there's definitely something in this, and they can just come and watch the mortality rates in a feedlot like this and make their minds up for themselves.
Thanks, Dennis.
Okay, until next time, but make sure you get to this auction, especially as a commercial farmer. Even if you just come and do your homework, there's definitely something to learn, something to see and to understand when you see these Boran commercial animals available for bulls, commercial and stud, or for commercial and stud. And then there's as always there's a lot